Okay, you want to give your son the secret weapon to attracting positivity and people into his life that will help him reach his goals, not just in baseball, but in his entire life. Are you ready for this? It's coming up in today's video.
And now, the most trusted name in all of youth sports, here's Coach Mark.
Okay, welcome. Hey, it's Coach Mark here. I'm super excited about today's talk. It's near and dear to my heart. It's what I call the secret weapon in life. It is, are you ready for this? Communication skills. Now you're going, what? What does that have to do with baseball? I would tell you it has everything to do, not just with baseball, but in every single thing you do and every single thing that your son does. So in today's video, I'm going to give you 5 communication skill tips that can dramatically help in this process of development and college recruiting and success in life, because I care about all of those. I got to go all the way back to my Mercer days. I had to pick a major, and it was hard because I just wasn't that studious in a lot of different things. I could tell you a lot of things I couldn't do, but the one thing that I was most interested in back in those days, and even still to this day, communication skills. I figured I would go into sales, and if I was good at communicating, I would be okay at sales, which turned out to be very true. So interpersonal communications is my background. It is my degree, and I've been studying it since I was in my 20s. Okay, so in today's video, these 5 tips are interpersonal communication skills. Now, I will say this, and I probably won't win any friends for this statement, but most teenagers are not very good at any of these. I hate to say it. There are exceptions. There are phenomenal teenagers that have had tremendous training and tremendous role models and parents that are really helping them understand this at an early age. But if they didn't learn this at an early age, I can promise you it's hard to teach teenagers this stuff after they get the bad habits going. So if you are a parent of a younger son, a 9-year-old, a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-old, this is the moment to really start instilling these communication skills in your son. And if you do it well, oh my gosh, what an advantage your son is going to have as he gets into the teen years and beyond. So I had to give you that little introduction because this is so important that we understand. And by the way, side note, I just don't get these people that are always talking about delaying this type of information. Like I see people on YouTube and I see people on Facebook talking about, well, he's only 14, he's only 16. Like that's young. You know, I want young kids to understand these concepts. I mean, when do we start teaching kids about manners? The moment they possibly can understand, right? Well, same with communication skills. This isn't something you wait till you're 15. This is something you're doing 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, because by the time they're in their teens, they will have this down pat, especially if you hold them accountable. Okay, sorry, I just had to lay the foundation for this one. Here we go. Are you ready? 5 communication skills to teach your son. First one, eye contact. When I'm speaking to a group of players, let's say my team, I don't ask for it. I don't hope for it. I demand it. I demand eye contact for the kids. And it's really hard for a lot of these kids because sometimes besides me, nobody's holding them accountable to eye contact. So here's how it works. I'm talking to a group of kids, and I literally tell them this: you are listening with your eyes. So that means if your eyes are not on my eyes, you are not listening. And if you're not listening, this is how I talk to them, you're not worthy to be here. Okay, I obviously have nothing good to say. You're not interested. That plane flying by or that ant crawling on the ground, that must be more important than what I'm saying. So you can leave the meeting And you can come back anytime you want, as long as you're going to be here listening with your eyes. I will have that same talk with 9-year-olds. And let me tell you what, once you lay the groundwork, they listen. They're looking with their eyes. Why is this so important? Because, first of all, you can go to the animal world and understand why eye contact is important. Because, for instance, dogs that look down, that won't make eye contact, they are the subservient dogs. They are the weaker dogs. The dogs that make eye contact, when you make eye contact with a dog that makes eye contact, or a bear, they recommend not doing that, because that is a connection. But when a dog is looking down, he's the weak dog. He's the subservient dog. Well, I'm convinced, and I don't want to get gender specific here, but in a man's world, I can tell you, guys that look down, that won't look you in the eye, do not demand much respect. So I want these young guys, these young men, to learn eye contact is critical. Sometime they're going to be in a college recruiting visit with a college coach, and they better be making 100% eye contact, because if they don't, that is a huge red flag. So, as a parent, when you're talking to your son, I would encourage you to demand, not ask, not request, eye contact. And get them early on understanding we do not leave each other's eyes when we're talking to each other. Okay, we don't drift off and look around. You've been talking to people before where they're just doing one of these numbers and you're like, are you even listening? Okay, so I could go on and on about eye contact. Make sure that is part of his communication skills. All right, ready for number 2. All right, a firm handshake. Oh my gosh, nothing is worse in a man's world than shaking somebody's hand and they give you a dead fish. Now, I can say this on camera because I'm not going to hopefully offend anybody, but let me tell you what one of the most awkward moments for me is. When a father and son are introducing themselves to me, and I shake the son's hand in front of the father, and it's a dead fish. It is so bad. I can't stand it. And most men can't stand it either. It's just a huge turnoff when a kid gives you a limp hand. And the reason it's so awkward for me is because the dad's there. Most of the time, no offense, moms, dads are the ones. Son, give me a good firm handshake. You look me in the eye. That's something we should be doing with a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old. And then they get real proud of it. They look you in the eye and they shake your hand. If I get a kid, now I won't usually do this in front of his dad because it's too embarrassing, but if I get a kid that gives me a limp handshake, I'll just say, squeeze my hand. Now look me in the eye. Now that's what I'm talking about. That's what I do with kids to make sure they understand that valuable lesson. A firm handshake, always. Now, I'm not talking about crushing somebody's hand, just a good firm handshake goes a long way in this world. Okay, number 3. Are you ready? Enunciation. Kids these days, they mumble. Why do they mumble? Because they're not talking as much as they probably used to. Why? They're on their phones all the time. They're not even talking to their friends on the phone. They're texting. So their communication skills with talking sometimes are really poor. They mumble. So what do? I make them enunciate. When they say something, they do one of those numbers, I go, wait a second, I can't even understand what you're saying. I want you to look me in the eye and I want you to speak clearly and loudly to me, okay? I don't want a low little voice mumbling. I don't want that. I want confidence. And that's how I talk to these young kids, because they need to step up and be confident and enunciate their words so we can all understand them, okay? So pay attention to that. As I'm working with my clients and I'm talking on the phone to them, I know that they're going to be talking to college coaches at some point on the phone. I'm constantly saying, okay, we got to work on some phone skills here, because you're not projecting anything. You're like a a little puppy on the phone, and people aren't attracted well, they're attracted to little puppies, but they're not attracted to people that are very soft-spoken and hardly have any energy in their voice, okay? So that's another one, big one. All right, number 4. What do you think this one's going to be? Okay, am I giving you a good clue? Okay, it's posture. It's posture. When I'm talking to a group of kids, I have been known to go over and say, sit up straight or get out of my meeting. Okay? Why? Because I'm going to make a point. That posture is not appropriate here. Can you imagine going into a job interview? I've actually had it happen. I've hired many people, and people come in and they sit back like this, like they're at home on a lounge chair. I don't say much to them. They don't get the job, obviously. So I'm huge on posture. I want these kids up straight, back straight, looking straight ahead like this, paying attention, even on the edge of their seat sometimes, but they are not going to slouch. I know they get away with it. They're probably in school and at home maybe, but not in this world. Not when you are going to have to project confidence. Posture is huge, okay? All right, so number 5, what is that? This one's a giant one, and I would say this one's a little more advanced. It is asking questions. Now, many people have not ever public spoken, but I do a lot of public speaking, and I appreciate so much when I say, does anybody have any questions? And there's a kid, boom. He's got his hand up, he's got a question because his mind's been racing and he wants to know something. I pay attention to that kid. Most people are not like that. Most people just sit there. I could have talked for an hour, and somehow, some way, they can't come up with one single question. Now, I'm not that good, okay? I always say to people, look, I'm not that good that everything I said was so crystal clear that nobody has any questions. So I would encourage you to encourage your son to learn to ask questions. He doesn't want to be the timid one that is afraid to ask the question. Or even if he's asking a question, how he asks the question. I have a question. That's weak. That's timid. We don't want that. We want, Coach, got a question. Awesome. What is it? Okay, that's what we want. So again, in communication skills, one of the things that I do really well, because I'm a naturally inquisitive person, is I ask a ton of questions. Some people might say I'm being invasive. I don't know. But I want to know. And the only way you know is you ask questions. So encourage him to ask questions. All right. So we got through 5. I got one more for you. Let's call it a bonus. Are you ready for this? What is the word that we want to hear more than anything in our life? This is actually scientific. What word do we love to hear more than any word in our life? If you said your name, you would be correct. We love to hear our name, but it's a concept that has almost gone out the window. I want you to do a little test in the next day or so. I want you to see, when you get in conversations with people, I want you to see how many times they use your name. My guess, based on my observations, is probably none. Okay, and if it is, it's a rare person. The vast majority of people will not use your name throughout the conversation. Now, if we can teach these young kids to use people's names, it's like $1 million secret. Okay, I'll give you a funny story and we'll wrap this up. The first call that my son ever had to make, he was in 9th grade. He had to call Nick Schnabel, Coach Nick Schnabel, the ECU recruiting coordinator. Now, Christian was not that great of a communicator at that time. He is now. He's actually phenomenal now. You talk about a massive transformation from 9th grade to 30 years old. But that's another story. But this story is he had to make this call. And I was a little nervous because I couldn't imagine him having a great conversation yet on the phone. His skills just weren't there yet. So he calls up Coach Schnabel, and we had not rehearsed this. And Coach Schnabel picks up the phone, and Christian says, Coach, it's Christian. And I just wanted to crawl under the couch, okay? Because that's not how you start a conversation with a Division I recruiting coordinator. Well, the call went pretty good. It went okay. I sat beside him and I could see it went okay. But I talked to Coach Schnabel at a later date and we laughed about it because he's like, Coach, he's talking to me, he says, I didn't know who it was. He said, Coach, this is Christian. And so I got off, when I did my little training, my little wrap up with Christian, I said, okay, let's go over some basics. Number one, everybody has a full name. So it's, hi, Coach Schnabel. This is Christian Helsel from Altoona, Pennsylvania. I said, let's practice that. Hey, Coach Schnabel, this is Christian Helsel from Altoona, Pennsylvania. How are you this evening? Do you think that's a little better than, Coach, it's Christian? Okay? Now, he was in 9th grade, but he learned a valuable lesson. But just picture all the kids out there that are not getting that kind of training and they just keep making the same mistakes over and over and over. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to share information that's impactful, in some cases literally life-changing, because when you can communicate, you attract people to your life and big things happen. Opportunities come your way. So I'll wrap this up and say thank you for watching, and make sure, remember, information is not power. The use of information, implementation of information is powerful. Until the next video, God bless. Moms, dads, Coach Mark here. Did you know that there was more help available to you? It's true. Now, we love doing our YouTube videos. We're going to continue to do them. And please, by the way, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit some comments, get engaged with us. That helps build our YouTube channel so we can continue providing this free content. But in addition to that, you may not know about the Ambassadors Group. That is the consulting company that I formed specifically to get intimately involved with certain families, players, to help them all the way through the journey of youth sports. We're starting with kids as early as 10 and 11 years old. Now, I know all the haters out there are going to say, what are you doing with 10-year-olds? You know what? We're preparing these kids for the journey ahead. There's a big journey coming, and those that are prepared for it are going to do fine. Those that are unaware of what it's all about are going to really struggle in today's uber competitive environment. And parents, there's no guidebook of how to do this. Youth sports is a phenomenon. When I was a kid, there was no parent involvement. But now, as you know, you're very involved. So we're helping guide parents through this journey. There's a lot of things coming your way. If you have help, they can go smoothly, but if you don't and you wing it on your own, it can be a disaster, okay? I can't get into all the details now, but trust me, in 20 years, I've seen a lot of people blow it because they just didn't know what they were doing, okay? Not trying to fearmonger you, I'm trying to help you understand it's hard to get to the next level. 97% of high school players will never play Division I baseball. 93% will never play any college baseball. Those are the stats, okay? Pretty sobering. But here's another stat for you. Nearly 100% of our clients are moving on to the next level. And you might say, how is that possible? Here's how. We are very selective with who we choose to work with, okay? We're also very specific on what needs to happen. We have a game plan. We execute the plan. We make adjustments along the way because there are things that happen that we can't foresee. We're good at making adjustments. And then when the time comes, we have a database full of college coaches that are supporting us. Because think about it, if you're a college coach, wouldn't you love a program that is actually grooming kids with integrity, with commitment, with goal setting, with attitude, with respect, with community outreach, being a great teammate? I mean, I could go on and on of the things that we're doing with our clients to help prepare them for these guys at the next level. So, if that sounds interesting to you, here's what you need to do. Fill out the little form down below. answer a couple simple questions, and if we think you qualify, we're going to get back in touch with you. We're going to set up a private consultation just for you, and we'll talk about your son. We'll talk about the plan that he could have, and we'll find out if this makes sense that we work together. That's the Ambassadors Group. So I hope to talk to you soon.